Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again, just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 220, When You Have a Complicated Life. Hello, hello, hello. How are you, beautiful people? I'm doing very well. It is the end of March and it's still blowing my mind about how fast time goes. And I want to give you a couple reminders before I get into today's topic. But we are doing Wine-Free Work Week Challenge next week. So make sure you get signed up for that. It's angelamascenik.com/WFWW. Okay, so even if you think you might not be able to do 4 days of no drinking. So what happens in the challenge is that we all pledge to go alcohol-free Monday through Thursday during the work week. And then every day of that challenge, it's happening next week, Monday through Thursday, I come on Zoom live and coach you and ask you questions, give you inspiration, help you get set up for success in social situations, and help you understand about your feelings and get your mindset in the right place. And every day of the challenge, you get an email with something to do. And then you can post it in a private Facebook group if you want, but you can also win prizes every day if you do that. And they're fun. They're super fun this year. They're different than what we've done before. But I also give you tools in that challenge on what to do if you have a failure during that challenge. So I don't want you to be hesitant to join it if it's like, oh, I don't think I can do that. I haven't gone 4 days without drinking in forever. What if you could? And what if you do it? And even if you have a failure, you have that support with me where you can understand yourself more and reduce some of the shame that you have about that. So what do you think? You want to sign up for it? angelamascenik.com/WFWW. We'll be sending out information about the challenge on the Sunday before, so try to get signed up before that. And then you'll get all the details in your inbox, and it'll be super fun and easy to do with a bunch of women who are all working on this together. It's very inspiring. You won't feel like you're alone, and you get a little example of what it's like to work with me. So I highly recommend that you get over there and sign up for it. But today's episode is when your life feels complicated. I recently sent out an email and posted in my Alive AF coaching program. I asked this one question: what's your biggest struggle with stopping over drinking? And I got, 100 responses. It was awesome. So people shared all sorts of things, from urges to, they've got all these complicated things going on in their lives, social situations. They want to, but they want to stop over drinking, but then they just can't because of what they're thinking in the moment. I mean, it ranged into some varying topics. And what we did was we organized all of these responses into categories. And the longest category, the one category that had the most responses is basically the topic of this podcast episode. And so a lot of responses were like, I am a caregiver, I have an adult parent that lives with me, and I'm still caring for my children, or I have a special needs child living with me who's older, and I'm dealing with aging parents, or I've got a spouse that has cancer and I'm working full time, and all this other stuff going on in my life. So it's like these complex lives that we have and not knowing how to deal with that. And so we end up drinking. That was by far the biggest response that I got. It just all feels very overwhelming when there's lots of complexities in our lives. And I would say that that's probably a good representation of the clients who are in my program as well. We're at an age now where we're like the sandwich generation. We've got kids under us, and we've also got our aging parents around us, or aging family members. and dealing with both of that and our own work. Most of these people are still working. So we've got work stuff too and our own health. Like it just feels like a lot. So this podcast is dedicated to that. And I just want to give you guys some tips. If you resonate with that, if you feel like your life is complicated and you have many moving parts in your life and you don't know how to navigate it all and it just all feels overwhelming and you come home at the end of the day and then you want to, there's Edie again. You want to numb out and shut off the running list of things in your mind and numb out. This is a really good podcast for you to pay attention and listen to. So the first exercise I want to consider and invite you to do is just make a list on a piece of paper. So if you need to pause the podcast and come back to it, that's great. But you want to make a list on a piece of paper or in your journal and just think about your life and all of the different buckets of your life. Okay, so you might have your health, you might have your marriage, you might have work, you might have your parents, you might have your kids, right? So try to list out some of the bigger buckets of your life that first come to your mind. Okay, so you would list those out. And then next to that, you want to write out maybe the most recurring thought that you have about that specific area. Okay, so for your kids, you might think, oh, they're needy, or they have a lot of shit going on, or I'm very busy with them. Like whatever is the thought that you have about your kids that just comes up naturally. Don't judge yourself. Just uncover what your most common thought is about managing your kids or managing your work or handling your aging parents, and just note that next to that bucket of your life. Okay, and then next to that thought that you've identified, and you can write more if you want to, write a whole paragraph around your thoughts around that bucket. That might be a good exercise too. But for the simplicity of this, just try to keep it to one thought. Okay, and then ask yourself, how do I feel when I have that thought? And then just write down the feeling next to it. Okay, and then when I feel this way, what do I tend to do? And then write down some actions that you might do when you think about that area in your life. Okay, and then you can have some awareness. Okay, so then you look at this piece of paper and you're like, yeah, it's no wonder. I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and disappointed and sad or angry a lot of those negative emotions. And when you think about your mind during the day and you're like putting all of these thoughts and buckets of your life and your emotions into like a mixing bowl, and then you take a spoon and you mix all that up, right? It's like a perfect cocktail of overwhelm. Does that make sense? So I just want you to understand why you want to escape at the end of the day. And this is why, because you've got these swirling thoughts and feelings happening behind the scene, probably throughout your day. From the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, there's probably a running to-do list in each of these areas, or negative thoughts in each of these areas that create feelings for you that you don't know what to do with, and you don't know how to manage and organize. And so you carry that with you throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, it's just easier than unraveling all of that and looking at that and problem solving any of it. It's easier to go drink a glass of wine, watch TV, and eat popcorn. That was how it was for me anyway. TV, wine, popcorn, a trifecta of escape. Crunch so loud in my mind that I couldn't hear myself thought. Watch TV so I couldn't hear my mind. And drink so I couldn't hear my mind. Those three things together, perfect combination for me to quiet my mind and give myself a break from all of that. Because I had the same stuff. It was, life shit. I have a complicated life. There's too much going on. I would think that stuff on repeat. Okay. And then I would drink at the end of the day. So I'm actually really glad that this podcast episode is one of the first ones I'm going to be picking through the responses to help you guys on what your biggest obstacles are. So I couldn't change my relationship with alcohol until I had this awareness that I'm suggesting that you do for yourself. And if you're in one of my coaching programs, definitely come get coaching on this so I can help you organize this or do this exercise and then come post in the groups or ask for coaching on one of our calls around it to get the support that you have access to. But if you're not in one of the coaching memberships, you can figure this out, right? So what you want to do now that you're aware is kind of like, okay, understand why I'm drinking. It makes sense. This is a big swirl inside my mind all day long. I feel overwhelmed and then I drink. Okay. Probably we're not going to be changing a lot of our circumstances right now. That's always an option, is like, I could quit my job. I could, move my parents or whatever into nursing homes. I could send my kids to boarding school. Like we could change our circumstances. There's sometimes we can, but most of us in these types of situations don't want to. They want to be the caregiver for a lot of these people, and they still want to keep working, and they still want to be doing life the way they're doing it. They just want to feel less overwhelm around it, right? So first of all, we have to recognize where we are, and this is that exercise it's doing. And then the next thing is to reduce the overwhelm in your mind about it all. So this is where journaling every day in the morning to kind of dump out all of this shit in your mind and get it out. It's like taking out the trash. Okay, so clear out your mind every day is a tool. So dump out your thoughts. What am I thinking about my day today? What am I thinking about all my responsibilities today? And get that out. That is a very relieving exercise. Okay, so then once it's out and you've kind of organized, okay, what are my top priorities for today? That's what I'm going to focus on today, and everything else can wait until the next day or next week, right? And when your mind kicks in and wants to keep telling you all of the things that need to happen, or you keep ruminating on things, et cetera, you just want to come back to, you know what, I've already decided that this is what I'm going to do today. I don't need to keep overwhelming myself by looking at all of the details, and I'm going to focus on what I can do today. And you keep redirecting your mind back to, what is it that I can have control of today? And I promise you that will release a lot of the overwhelm and the anxiety and the swirl of thoughts about all the problems that you might have. Okay. We only really have what's right in front of us, our time in this day to figure things out. And if you actually want to figure things out, this is a real good, like, what can I do today to help me solve some of this? Do I need to make phone calls? Do I need to tell somebody no? Where can I get some time for myself today? Okay. So that's the one exercise. And then the other thing you want to do is prioritize your own self-care. You need to make yourself the number one priority. And I know you might want to object to me with this because you feel like, how can I add this in when I have all of this other shit going on, right? It feels impossible, but I promise you, you've got 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, you have 5 or 10 minutes. How often are you scrolling on your phone? How often are you drinking wine? How often are you watching Netflix? How often are you looking at vacations on Airbnb? Okay, how often are you looking at Zillow for a different house? Like, look at how you're spending your free time. And if you can recognize that you spend a lot of your free time, that you actually do have more time than you think you do, and you're like, you know what, if I have time to scroll on Facebook for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, let's be honest, an hour at night, I can sit and make myself a priority, because you scrolling on Facebook with a glass of wine is not self-care. That's just escaping how you feel, and it's all going to come back and show up the next day, and now you have an over-drinking problem and you're addicted to scrolling on your phone, right? So switch out that time for taking care of yourself, journaling, taking a walk, getting your exercise in, planning your food, listening to podcasts, doing the work in the coaching programs. If you're in one of my programs, joining a coaching program, or getting, support from somebody outside of you, professional support to help navigate this. So think about ways that you can make yourself a priority. What do you like? So what's good for you, right? You know what you need to do for yourself in order for you to feel at your best. Right? And if you don't know that, you should pause the podcast and ask yourself that question so that you actually know what works, what could work for you. So for me, I know that if I don't exercise every day, I'm going to be a hot mess. Like, I will feel anxious and I won't feel good about myself, and I'll want to comfort myself in other ways. So exercise is always a yes for me. Drinking enough water for me is an ultimate form of self-care. Getting good sleep, going to bed by 9:30 at night is really good for me. Planning out my food every day, processing my feelings throughout the day, taking care of myself. I take baths. I treat myself well. I wash my face at night. Like, I make myself a priority. Having alone time is very important to me. And these things happen every single day for me. It's one of the reasons why I've been able to maintain not drinking for almost 5 years, growing my business, having lots of amazing relationships, starting new programs. I'm able to do a lot in my life and have a complex, I would even say complicated life, because I take care of myself. It's not because I'm like pushing through and being overwhelmed and burnt out and ignoring that and drinking. That's not how it works. I'm able to do my full life and I'm able to deal with shit when it comes in because I take care of myself. So let's back up a second. First step, identify the areas in which your life that you have that you manage on a regular basis. So work, family, relationships, health, that kind of thing. Write those down. Next, write out your thoughts around those areas, 1 or 2 thoughts. Next, to those thoughts, write out how you feel when you have these thoughts, and then recognize how that swirls around in your brain, and then you feel overwhelmed with all of it, and then you want to escape with a glass of wine. You got to be aware of sort of what's happening and see it playing out, okay? And then you got to prioritize your own self-care and tell yourself to only focus on what's in front of you today. That's where, what are 3 things I could get done today, or 1 thing from each bucket that I could do today. It could be just as easy as making a phone call. I can't tell you, I had a oil change, okay, that was overdue for like 4 months. And I don't drive that much, so it really wasn't that big a deal, but it was weighing on me. It was like this thing in the back of my mind that was bothering me. And every time I got in my car, I was reminded, you're, 1,000 miles past due. And then like people that would drive in my car would be like, you're past due. I'm like, I know. But once I got that done and like made the phone call, made the appointment, it was like that was, it seems so small, but that reduced a lot of my anxiety, right? So there's one thing that you can take care of within that bucket probably every day that will help you kind of keep this at bay and feel good that you're actually making progress on something. So prioritize your time. What's one thing I can do today towards this bucket that's going to make me feel, and then you don't entertain all of the what's going to happen next month and I need to figure this out. Then it's like, nope, I'm going to focus my mind and redirect and focus on the one thing today. Okay. And then adding in your self-care. Very, very, very important. If you have this big category, that you have a complicated life. We're not told as women to take care of ourselves. Nobody's going to come up and be like, did you give yourself, 45 minutes of alone time today? Nobody's going to do that. Okay. Nobody tells me, have you had your morning coffee and your journaling time by yourself yet today? No. They're not going to remind you that you need to take care of yourself. That is your job, is to take exquisite care of yourself. Give yourself what you need. If you need alone time, if you need to make sure you exercise, all those things that I mentioned, make sure that gets put on the calendar first and you fill your own bucket first before you take care of other people. This is probably the biggest solution that I can offer you. All right. And getting coaching and helping and asking for help. When you have a complicated life, asking for help is very, very important. So if you have been struggling with over drinking and you need help, there's no shame in that. Join Wine Free Workweek and then join my Alive AF monthly coaching membership. Okay. If you need more in-depth help, like consider, and you're really struggling with things from your past or with your older parents that you now have to take up, consider, getting a therapist and joining a coaching program. Asking for somebody to help you, manage dinners or ordering that stuff. Like, how can you ask for help in some of this area so it's not all falling on you? You don't have to do everything. And as a matter of fact, I would recommend that you don't. Start saying no to things too. Let's add that in. So getting aware, understanding your thoughts, reducing your own overwhelm by focusing on what you can do today, one or 2 things a day, self-care, and saying no more. All right, my friends? So that's my quick and dirty on having a complicated life. And if it feels like a big swirl all the time and you don't know how to manage it all, doing these things, as I recommend, is going to help tremendously. All right, my friends, I love you. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Talk soon.